Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and today I want to expand upon one of the facts that I put in my recent 10 things you may or may not have known about the Master Chief. Many of you will probably know what this fact is, but for those of you who don't, you're in for a treat. And I'm going to narratively expand on it a little bit and theorise on a way it could actually be implemented. But that's enough beating around the bush. Let's discuss how the Master Chief might actually be immune to the halos. During the events of Halo 4, the first battle of Requiem, the Master Chief, rather unknowingly, unleashed an ancient evil. He awoke the Didact from his cryptum that he had been sealed within 100,000 years prior, and it is here that our thread of narrative begins. And as we continue to pull on this thread, some rather remarkable possibilities reveal themselves. There is a specific scene in the Halo 4 terminals which chronicle the closing days of the Forerunner Flood War, specifically orientated around the Didact and his wife, the Librarian. And the specific scene that we're interested in is this one.
Did it work? Run the simulation. The procedure is a failure. I am still susceptible to flood infection.
That leaves only the composer.
It will not work on my new form.
Then you will lead us, as always.
You would submit to such sacrifice.
Didact, if the composer is our final hope to defeat the Flood, no Promethean would resist.
The Didact mutated himself to try to gain an immunity to the Flood. Mutation was not an alien concept in the Forerunner culture. Indeed, the very structure of the Forerunner ecumene relied upon the genetic mutations of its populace to fit specific roles. The youngest Forerunners, the ones that had not undergone their first mutation yet, were simply known as manipulars. However, when they receive their first mutation, which is often patterned on an elder, be it a parent or a mentor, they become what's known as a first form Forerunner. This mutation is, generally speaking, offered off of the direct genetic imprint of a parent or mentor within the individual's guild. So a young Manipular builder will receive a mutation based upon the genetic profile of, say, their father, whom gained his from his father and his father before him, and that had been tailored over generations to more purposefully fit the role that builders are supposed to take within the Forerunner ecumene. In the case of warrior servants, of which the Didact is one, there is another type of mutation known as a brevet mutation, which is performed at the height of war to advance a Forerunner quickly to a new mutative strain. Normal mutations take place and then generally show the signs and features and characteristics of the mutation weeks, months, or even years later. The brevet mutation is much faster, much more aggressive, and the characteristics onset within hours to days, and thus can be considered a much more extreme method of mutation, but one that was deemed necessary at the height of war. The Didact, being the head of the warrior servants and a Promethean, engineered his own mutation in a desperate attempt to gain immunity to the Flood, as was believed possible by the Forerunners at that time, as it was at least suspected that humanity had done exactly that before they were devolved. In spite of his brilliance, however, he did not achieve his goal. His new, mutated form remained vulnerable to the Flood. However, a side effect to this very procedure is that he then had an immunity to the composer, a device based on neural physics, a technological concept mastered by the precursors but barely known about and even less understood by the Foreigners. The Composer, as with many Foreigner technologies, had multiple functions, one of which being the conversion of a biological entity into a digital essence. The intention being that the Composer could convert all of the Foreigners to digital essences, thereby effectively denying the Flood them as a source of sustenance, and then being able to be converted back into a biological form thereafter. However, due to the Foreigners' ill understanding of the properties of neural physics, the conversion from digital back to biological always failed. Due to the neural physical nature of the Composer, it is also heavily implied that they are a primary component to the firing mechanism of the halo array, as both the Composer and a halo can be tuned to specific frequencies to target certain biologicals. Both systems rely heavily upon neural physics, with seemingly the only major difference being that the Composer saves a digital version of the biological entity processed, whereby the halos simply destroys it, which again may simply be a different setting or method of function. Now, bringing ourselves back up to the events of the first Battle of Requiem, the Master Chief encounters the essence of the Librarian, who makes the following very clear.
You are the culmination of 1,000 lifetimes of planning.
Planning for what?
He has found us.
Even in death, her meddling continues.
Reclaimer. The gene song I placed within you contains many gifts, including an immunity to the Composer. But it must be unlocked.
How?
Relinquish your contact essence.
Your evolutionary journey must be accelerated.
Can I defeat the Didact without it?
No.
Then do it.
Prepare.
Chief is the culmination of 1,000 lifetimes of planning and holds within his genetic code a gene song laced with genetic gifts that make him more than just human. One of these gifts being an immunity to the Composer. Upon accepting this gene song be unlocked, Chief goes through the process and then basically continues his fight unfazed. After being abandoned on Requiem to face the Didact alone, Chief manages to hitch a ride with the Didact ship the Mandals approach and arrives at Ivanov Station, where, buried deep within, the Composer is being studied. The Didact retrieves the Composer and then turns it on the population of Ivanov Station. Every single human on board is converted into a digital essence composed and their physical bodies disintegrated to carbon. Everyone except the Chief. The gene song that had been unlocked did indeed grant him an immunity to the Composer, but then that begs the question. If Chief has an immunity to the Composer, and the Composer is a primary functional component of the firing of a halo, does that mean Chief is also immune to the halo? I mean, we've been running on the general assumption that shield worlds in general shield the individuals within from the effects of the halo array, and they do this by having the entire shield world contained within a slipspace field. However, it has also been established that ships in slipspace are not safe from the effects of a halo. So what is different about the slipspace rift that surrounds a shield world versus the slipspace rift that surrounds a ship? The answer is basically nothing. It would be a massive flaw in the plan, in fact, if the halos fired and didn't cleanse slipspace as well, as the Flood were using slipspace to traverse the galaxy, at least in small numbers, towards the end of the Foreigner Flood War. So if the halos were incapable of cleansing life within slipspace, the Flood would have survived the cleansing of the galaxy, as well as any other life that just so happened to be in slipspace at that time. So if slipspace doesn't protect you from the effects of a halo, then when they fired, even life in the shield worlds would have been wiped out and then reseeded thereafter. And we seemingly find exactly that. There is no fauna life in any shield world in the galaxy as far as we're aware. No life except one, the Didact. If the effects of the Halo are as complete and as total as they have to be, as is suggested, then traversing through slip space, hiding within a shield world, or locked within a cryptum would not save you. The only thing that would save you from the effects of the Halo would be being outside of their range, ergo outside of the galaxy or on the Ark, pointing towards the possibility that the Didact survived the firing of the Halos 100,000 years ago, not because he was within his cryptum, not because he was within Requiem, but because of his immunity to the Composer. And since Chief has the same immunity, Chief could be immune to the Halos as well, which would play into future campaign. Now, of course, it probably won't be in campaign DLC for Halo Infinite because, well, as far as we're aware, there is no one at 343 Industries working on campaign, but I have my own ideas on what should have happened for the campaign DLC of Halo Infinite. All of that will be covered, including how the discoveries of this video could be implemented into future narrative, will be covered in the next video where I lay out my own ideas on what should have happened for Halo Infinite DLC. So be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss that video, and until then, thanks for watching. If I could respectfully ask, if you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the subscribe button and the little bell icon so you're told the second a new video hits the shelves. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed, and if not, it's not a problem. And be sure to pop a comment below to throw me an idea on what you want to see next. Massive thanks to my awesome patrons, Spartan10148, the Metarch of my facility, Falcon, Prophet, Leon, Sylphia, Mikhail, and Irrefutable, the monitors of the array, Darian, Flaming Halo, Cameron, Spartan0137, the Cave Potato, Andrew, Shia, Dakota, and Ghost, my diligent sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, and my loyal enforcers, and all other patrons who have supported the channel and helped keep the domain operational. Huge props and recognition to Todd Morrison, Spartan137, Wesley Stuckey, and Jacob Kemp for jumping on as Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members. You guys are epic. Shout out to John for reasons. And if you want to help support the channel and score yourself tons of perks and merch, head over to Patreon or consider becoming a YouTube member. Links, as ever, are in the description. Much love. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.